Hello and welcome to the Data Leadership Podcast. My name is Richard James. I'm joined today by Andrea Bozzola. We are going to be discussing a topic of migrating of big data clusters into the cloud, which obviously a lot of organizations are looking at right now. There's obviously some key considerations around that, some experiences that hopefully Andrea is going to share with us today. And he's in a great position to do that with his experience. He's moved from, he's an experienced DBA and he's actually in an engineering manager role at the moment with booking.com. So I think best place to start with this, Andrea, I'll just pass it over to yourself. If you want to give a bit of an intro into how you got into data in the first place, your journey so far, and we'll go from there.
Sure. Thank you, Rick. Good morning, everyone. I am Andrea. I am Italian. I joined booking.com back in 2015. It was rental cars at that time in the Manchester office. My career in IT starts from the very bottom. Actually, I started as service desk, open to the public, then internal service desk, tester, developer, DBA, and then I came here as a junior DBA, and now I'm an engineering manager for the data core team in Booking.com Trip Business Unit in Manchester. We currently manage many different data storage topology and database topology and database technology. Hadoop is the technology we choose for our big data cluster. And we are actually, in the last 2 years, in the process of migrating our cluster into the cloud.
So big project.
It's a massive project.
Yeah, a lot to get stuck into there, and that's why it's an interesting one to share your experiences on and dig into a little bit more. So, I mean, from your perspective, why do organizations do this, and when could be the best time to do something like this?
That depends. The time depends on the type of organization you're part of. So for startup, of course, it's much better to start from the very beginning. So be born into the cloud. That actually saves the big expense of being in a data center. For bigger company, the topic is a little more tricky. First of all, because many times the plan is not clear since the beginning. Most probably, in many cases, the directive comes from the top. Is okay, we want to migrate to the cloud. How? So we managers receive simply this objective with a not well-determined timeline, and we just the point where we want to arrive, but we had to decide how and when. Now, many times in a big company, that's not just a task for DBAs or for data teams in particular. So many other teams are involved. So if we think about the fact that big data is now used mainly for business intelligence, for example, we have people employed in business intelligence, people employed in finance report, people employed in data scraping from competitors' websites, for example, to decide which is the best pricing strategy for the future. We can have machine learning and multiple other use cases. So each of these use cases most probably requires a different strategy to be tackled. And here is the main difficulties. So which use case has the highest priority? Which use case should be migrated first? So what I like to do, which is nothing I invented. I mean, I took actually advice from other people who did this before me, is to assign a priority to each of the use case, which have been identified, and assign difficulties of implementation depending on the cloud technology we choose. Of course, there are different cloud providers, there are different cloud implementation. And depending on these two numbers, depending if, for example, it's acceptable to have a higher difficulty of implementation if that specific use case with higher difficulty implementation can actually facilitate the implementation of future use cases. And after you have all of this information, start designing the future cloud infrastructure that can be completely different from what we have in our data center. I know many companies, not in UK, also in Europe, that simply rely on a lift and shift approach. So basically keeping exactly the same configuration they have in their data center and creating virtual machines in a cloud environment provided by any provider they can find, and rebuild exactly the same infrastructure they have, which is easier, much quicker, and extremely more expensive.
Right. So it's a simpler option, but actually there's a cheaper way of doing it.
Not counting the fact that after that, if you want to optimize the cost, you will go exactly through the same process. You will see how to identify which are the use cases. You will see how to identify which is the best way to implement them. The difference is that now you have chosen a cloud technology, so you are probably stuck in that cloud technology.
And is that a common, I suppose, problem when migrating over to the cloud? That it's around what you choose, and are you going to be tied into one once you start going down that route?
Well, one of the trickiest points to take into account is to try to avoid the technology segregation. So try to avoid the fact that once you choose a specific technology, I'm not only talking about the main data cloud provider, which are AWS, Azure, and Google Cloud, as we all know. There are many minor cloud providers which also provide quite good solutions, but the risk is that you can be stuck with a specific technology, or let's say the migration to another technology can actually take longer.
Yeah, and I think some of the other problems that can be associated with that when it comes into actually finding staff with the skill set to support these cloud environments as well, and that can be another problem. Is that something you've seen or something you've seen or faced?
When a company usually chooses to migrate to the cloud, it can face staffing problems. One is due to the fact that most probably the staff available in the company doesn't have enough professional experience in the cloud. It could have been personally interested in the cloud, but if the company has never been in the cloud before, most probably it doesn't have a skill set high enough, which means there are two options usually employed together at the same time: hire new staff or upskill the staff already employed with the company. Now, hiring a new staff can be tricky because cloud competence is pretty vertical. It's very difficult to find, especially talking about the main cloud providers, especially if we are talking about public cloud. It's very difficult to find someone who is highly trained in AWS, Azure, and Google Cloud, for example. They are completely different. Exactly, they are completely different skill set. The logic behind them can be the same, but of course the technologies employed are different. Different is the topic in case the company wants to approach the private cloud or hybrid cloud.
I think the difficult, just to add on to that as well, I think when it comes down to deciding whether to upskill your team internally or actually hire externally. You've got to think of, the guys who have been in the team for, a long time, potentially sort of veterans within the team that have a lot of business knowledge as well. So it's like you bring someone in with this new skill set, great, but actually how long is it going to take them to add serious value, and how is that going to disrupt the makeup of the team already? And that's where I feel that people need to maybe place more of an emphasis on upskilling their staff and really giving the opportunities to the right people. Obviously, they've got to have the will to go and learn that, and obviously got to have the right, I suppose, type of person to pick up skills quickly. And when it's a key project, I'm sure you want to get it done, and you want to get it done in the right way. So the temptation is to bring in, the experts, the finished product. But I do think there needs to be more of an emphasis on upskilling staff. You see it in all sorts of industries, and I think maybe it needs to happen more often within technical teams as well.
The human factor is definitely the most defining probably factor in the difficulty of the journey to the cloud of any business, especially because, as you underline rightly, staff that has been in the company, in the business for years, we probably feel betrayed because they have put so much effort in the company for so many years in creating the perfect environment on-prem, the perfect data center environment, and upskilling them in all the possible technologies that can actually be used to create, in case, a private cloud or an hybrid cloud. But all of a sudden, the business decided to migrate to public cloud, and they will probably feel neglected. They will have fear of being made redundant, possibly in the future. So everyone cope with changes in the same way, more or less. It's not a matter of time or a matter of duration of this coping, but the pattern everyone has to cope with changes is more or less the same. It's explained by a graphic called the curve of Kubler-Ross.
Okay.
Actually, it's pretty useful for any phase of management. In case you have to manage people, that's absolutely gold. In Booking.com, actually, we use it a lot, especially when we train new managers. There are specific training sessions about how to read and how to deal with the Kubler-Ross curve.
Maybe after the chat, I'll share it as well alongside the video. Because that sounds interesting.
It is. Or simply people they don't like the cloud and they simply don't want to work in the cloud. I've seen that.
Just assume obviously the newest thing. Let's go for it. But
exactly.
I'd agree with that. I actually have quite a few conversations with, especially DBAs, experienced DBAs that actually say, look, my expertise lies in SQL Server, for example, on-prem. That's where my expertise lies. That's where I'm comfortable. I'm at a stage in my career now where I don't want to go and learn a completely new thing and maybe dilute my skill set. And that's sort of something.
Yeah, but that's actually this is actually an interesting topic, because this actually highlights the necessity of evolution. Now, this is not evolution in biological term, but it's an evolution in professional term. And as harsh as it can seem, if a system is not able to evolve and adapt, it will die.
Yeah.
So I have been there as well. I've been one of the person who said, yes, but I don't trust a server if I cannot enter and check all the logs manually, one by one, row by row. I've been there not so long ago, a couple of years ago.
Yeah. What's changed in those 2 years for you to maybe change your thinking towards that?
Well, first of all, I'm curious by nature. So I started studying, looking into it. Why not? And it's actually interesting. It's a new technology. which is, I mean, curiosity is exactly the thing that brought me from being a customer care assistant to being a DBA and then an engineering manager. And it is definitely, at least for what we can see now, the evolution of how it will become the computing and the storage. It's simple. It allows to have quickly a working infrastructure, reducing at the highest level, reducing the human intervention, and so human error. Let's not forget that, I mean, cloud is not something that doesn't exist. It's not physical. It's still a physical server or a group of physical servers. Simply, it's somewhere else.
Yeah, exactly that.
It's not cloud. It's just a server somewhere else.
Yeah, it's that whole scalability piece, isn't it? That whole flexibility that you get around it, the cost savings, or all this type of thing that come into it. And yeah, you're right. I mean, from my perspective, it's pretty much every job I think I'm working currently involves cloud in some way or another. We're either transformation project over to a cloud, or it's something already existing that they're looking for the skill set to come and continue to work on. So it's so I've seen the massive change in it, and yeah, there's obviously some problems that can come with it. I mean, in your experience, how can you tackle some of those problems that you mentioned there? So, around how staff react to it, do they have the skill sets? Do you hire in? Which use cases to focus on? All those sort of factors.
Well, the employees are the most important part of every business. My old manager used to say that you work for the employee, you work for the other employees, you don't work for the business.
Yeah.
In the end.
Yeah, I like that.
And it's true. I know this is true. I've seen people leaving business because the people they like to work with left.
Yeah. To be fair, it's very common. Yeah, very common.
So it's very important to give value to the employees, especially the employees who helped you be there. Not because of out of loyalty for them, but because if they help you being there, they have value to give you. They can give you value. They can give you that edge that others, you're not sure they can. You can still bet on others. You should bet on others as well, of course. Talent must always be hired, but invest in internal training, invest in psychological support if it's needed, or invest in helping the people who want to leave to find a job they like to.
Yeah, I think it goes a long way for a company's reputation when they're clearly investing in their staff. They're thinking about them first. Some businesses are a little bit hesitant to go and invest in training and upskilling of staff, because obviously it leaves the door open that they could actually move on with that skill set elsewhere. And I think in reality, if you're treated well during that process, if you're shown to be investing and truly caring about those individuals, then they will stay. There's a big,
you absolutely want to remain.
People don't just move for no reason. Yeah,
because you feel valued. Because
exactly,
you feel valued, and at that point you have you know that there is a reciprocal loyalty between you and the business you're working with.
Yeah, and that's when you've got that harmony. And do you feel that it can help with a big project like this, for example, moving over to the cloud? Do you think it helps to, if those people actually have a seat at the table, they have an input into what's going on, and they feel like they're not just being told, look, this is what we're doing, this is the way to do it, and they're actually giving some input, especially experienced individuals?
Definitely, yes. Especially if they've worked together for a long time. So we go still back to the same topic as before. So it's important to maintain harmony in the workplace and retain as much as possible the talents you already have, because they already know how to work together and they can obtain effective results more quickly. and probably better results as well.
It's a really good point. If they've been working well together for so long, actually, how quickly are they going to pick up those new skills, and how effective?
Especially because if you work together for someone for a long time, you become more than colleagues. It's possible you're friends. It's possible actually you will work on it because you like it, and you will work on it out of working hours as well.
Yeah, that's it. When you
that doesn't mean it's a good thing to work out of working hours. But if you like it, at that point you're doing something you like. You're not really working. You're doing something you like. Confucius used to say that if you find a job you like, you'll never work one day in your life.
Yeah, and no, I agree with that. It's important to. It's not always the case. It's actually really common not to be the case, but it is important to enjoy what you do, because at the end of the day, how many hours do we spend every week, in an office or in a bedroom at the moment?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, especially now we are working from home. So literally your work is your life.
Yeah.
You are in the office all the time.
Yeah, this is it. So are there any other... are there any other things that you can do or put in place that help this process? Because obviously a big project, obviously a lot to think about.
Do you mean in human side or technological side?
Yeah, I mean both really. I suppose in terms of how to maybe tackle a project of that size, for example, and complexity, is it again, does it point to prioritization or?
I think the key for aiming and actually targeting a proper migration, an effective migration, is starts from proper planning. Planning can be decided at any level. Can come from business level. A detailed planning can come from business level, or can come from a lower level. But without planning and without steps, you cannot go anywhere. You can know where you want to arrive, but if you don't know how you want to arrive there or how you can arrive there, you'll never be able to arrive anywhere.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, Columbus he knew there was something on the other side of the sea, but before him, no one wanted to go there. No one even knew how to go there. He was the first one who tried.
Yeah, exactly that.
I mean, he arrived in the wrong place. That's another thing, but he discovered something new.
Yeah, exactly that. So all the key is in the planning. And I mean, from your experience and also experiences you've heard about, are there any obvious, are there any key mistakes that tend to happen when taking on this project? And is there any advice you'd give to people that are, if you're a data leader and you're actually looking to embark on a project like this, or it's something on the horizon? Any advice?
Yes, not be scared. First of all, it's a change. Change scares everyone. You can call it change, you can call it evolution, but it's still the same thing. Don't look only at the big figure. That can be overwhelming. So divide it impera, like Julius Caesar used to say. So split it in multiple different steps and tackle them one by one. The final result will be the same. It's possible it will take longer, but you will be able to deliver what you've been asked to. Plus, small achievement helps the morale. If you have a team that knows has to deliver a massive project and will not see anything ready until the end of the project, sooner or later, the morale will fade away. While if you celebrate the small achievement you are able to achieve, and if actually every achievement delivers something that is useful by the business or by the customer or internally, that's something the members of your team and the members of your staff will see and will appreciate.
Yes,
that's at least my personal experience.
Definitely breaking it down, putting the building blocks in place to make what could be a really complex and would be a complex situation actually more achievable, for sure. And I think it links into conversations that we've had quite a bit on the podcast, to be fair, around the need to communicate with the business as well, and have all the right people engaged in this collaboratively. It's not something you can just do on your own. It has to be a big involved in the business as well.
It is a team effort, yes, absolutely. Now,
Yeah.
now we are in a world where no one can and should be working alone.
Yeah, 100%. So I think just to wrap this up then, are there any other points that are key when you're looking to obviously migrate big data clusters over to the cloud? Anything from your experience that you feel is good to put across?
Most probably make your choice wisely. Either choose public cloud, private cloud, or hybrid cloud wisely. Know why you choose it. Not necessarily stick to it, but evaluate carefully if you need to change and if you want to change. And also evaluate carefully if you really need to move to the cloud. If you have a business that relies a lot on volume, for example, that can be useful. If you have a business with a massive data center expense profile, that can be definitely useful, especially in this period of time, in the pandemic time. But the fact that the cloud exists doesn't mean you need to migrate to the cloud. It's possible you don't need it. It's possible.
Yeah.
Not everyone must go to the cloud.
Do you feel it's actually quite common that people change their mind about the cloud provider during this process?
I've seen it so far only before finalizing the migration to the cloud. I've seen it.
Yeah,
firsthand. I'm not saying anything else.
Brilliant. Yeah. Well, no, it's been really good speaking to you, Andrea. It's been really good to hear about your experiences on this one. And like I said before, I think a lot of people are. This is either on their radar or they're actively involved in it. So I'm keen to hear anyone's experiences on this. Anything else that you could share would be great. So yeah, brilliant. Thanks for your time, Andrea.
Thank you very much. Have a good day, everyone.